Okay, did we break any rules? No, I'm not saying you did. I'm not opining on whether there's any legal problems or any ethical problems at all, but I'm just reminding you about the rules. Okay, well, why are you reminding me for something I didn't do? Don't you hate that?
I can say that it is the honor of my life to serve on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. I will continue to carry out my sworn duties on behalf of the American people.
Letitia James loses. Remember, she sent in a demand to force Lindsay Halligan to create a little log that was sent over to her team and they could approve it or object to it and demand more answers about who she's talking to, where, why, and all the things. And now we've got a decision, an opinion, and an order saying, no, Tish, you can't make her do that. You're a defendant in a criminal fraud case for mortgage fraud. You don't get to dictate terms to the federal government. This one, of course, coming out of the Eastern District of Virginia. We're back in Lindsay Halligan territory, United States of America versus Letitia James. And the judge came down in a short order. And the judge, as we know, is Jamar K. Walker out of North Efford, Virginia. And he's going to split some of this, but Tish's big request is now denied. Let's get to it. It says, defendant Letitia James, she filed a motion asking the court to order the government to follow federal and local rules and abide by professional guidelines. It's like, okay, you don't need to order them to follow the rules when they're already following the rules. Now, the motion, in addition to that, right? So like, that's not, it's like, you want us to follow the rules? We're already going to follow the rules. So you don't need to ask the court to order you to do that. Are we violating the rules? Then make that allegation, but don't ask for an order saying, can they follow the rules? Which is all that is. Now, the motion also requests, this is where Tish got a little bit over her skis on this, says they want the court to require Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor, to keep a log of any communications between any government attorney or agent in this case and any member of the media. Because remember, Lindsay Halligan was texting Anna Bauer, supposedly off the record, even though it wasn't. And in any member of the media, and that the court impose a litigation hold preventing deletion or destruction of any records of communications having to do with this investigation or the prosecution of this matter. Okay, saying we want you, Lindsay, to be forced to comply with these record-keeping requirements. Now, the government does not oppose the defendant's proposal that the court issue a reminder to comply with the rules and interaction with the media. They say, of course, sure, remind us. We're already following the rules. Lindsay Halligan has always followed the rules, didn't do anything wrong. And if you remind us to follow the rules, you can remind Tish to do the same, because she's out there every day screaming about baseless attacks and how the president is coming after her, even though she ran for office literally with facial spasms and twitches, saying, I'm going to get this illegitimate president. It's on video. It's all over the place. It's crazy. It's TDS in the brain. It's what it does to your neural synapses. However, the government contends that any such order should extend to the defendant, Letitia, as well. The government also disputes whether a communication log or litigation hold is necessary. And so Tish's motion will be granted in part and denied in part as to the big one. Now, the court will direct all counsel, okay, to comply with the rules relevant to their circumstance, like, okay, as described below. And a litigation hold is appropriate in case there is discoverable information that is lost, which of course you're going to save all that too. If it's discoverable, they'll keep it. That is lost due to technological features designed to secure private communication. So like the disappearing messages, for example. However, the defendant, Letitia, does not demonstrate that it is necessary for the court to order the government to track their communications in any particular form. And we've read the back and forth on this. She was fighting to basically, monitor, like a hall monitor, all of the government's comms. They said, we're not going to do that, Tish, you lose. The motion criticizes alleged communications between Lindsay Halligan and Anna Bauer on the Signal app. Those alleged communications reference grand jury proceedings, and they were reported to the media. In its response, the government, from Halligan's office, highlights statements that Letitia herself made to the media about her beliefs about the government's motivations and her contention that the charges are baseless, right? So in other words, Tish is out there, baseless, 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 baseless. Lindsay Halligan responds to a journalist and says, they're not actually baseless. I'm defending my client, the people of America, the United States government. And so if Tish can run her mouth, Lindsay can run hers. And if you want to scold the government for doing that, then scold her too, Judge. Now here's their analysis from the court. The motion does not seek a sanction against the government, which was my earlier point. Did you say they broke the rules? Okay, then ask for a penalty. They didn't. Nor does a ruling on any of the requests require a finding that there is any wrongdoing. Saying, yeah, the government argues that its attorney statements were proper because they were made to protect her clients from undue prejudice. If Tish can run run her mouth, then the government can respond. So while the court notes that communications in the motion that are described are unusual, it declines to opine on whether they were improper in any sense, either legal or ethical. So we're not going to condemn Lindsay Halligan like much of the people on the left have already done. However, recognizing that the rules and the principles related to lawyers' engagement with the media are especially important in cases that attract public attention. And so the court orders the government to comply with the rules, federal rules of criminal procedure, which prohibits an attorney for the government from disclosing grand jury materials, which she didn't do. The government's attorneys are also reminded of their obligations, which addresses the release of information in the news media, and counsel for the government may also have professional duties that pose a risk of it's like just a reminder, just follow the rules. Okay, did we break any rules? No, I'm not saying you did. I'm not opining on whether there's any legal problems or any ethical problems at all, but I'm just reminding you about the rules. Okay, well, why are you reminding me for something I didn't do? Don't you hate that? It's like, well, just don't forget to do this thing. I wasn't going to. Well, just don't forget. Well, why'd you even bring it up? I was never going to. So just don't talk to me ever again. This court also orders all counsel, that's how I feel, to comply with local rule, all counsel, so even your attorneys, Letitia, which prohibits any lawyer, law firm, or law enforcement personnel associated with the prosecution or defense from authorizing certain extrajudicial statements, including any opinions about the accused guilt or innocence, and any lawyer who is participating in the litigation may also have an ethical duty to refrain from making extrajudicial statements that pose a risk to prejudicing the proceeding. And you know who a lawyer is? Yeah, Letitia is. Is she participating in the case? Yeah. So hey, Letitia, stop yapping, okay? Not allowed to do it. You're the AG of New York, so just zip it and just go back to your business of supporting Mamdani. The defendant, Letitia, she presents evidence that the government counsel communicated with a member of the media on Signal. That was Lindsay Halligan. We read the text. The court is not asked to decide now whether any communication is or will become discoverable. But in the event that some of these communications do take place and that they are discoverable, you should hang on to it. And so accordingly, we order a hold, do not delete or destroy any evidence that is discoverable, which they wouldn't do anyways, pending further order of the court. However, the court is also not persuaded that preservation of evidence related to communications requires that be maintained in any form, so we're not going to give you a log. The defendant, Letitia, does not demonstrate that a communication log is necessary, so the court will not order the government to maintain one, which was a dumb request in the beginning. The court trusts that counsel on both sides will comply with this order without any further hand-holding. Letitia, this is obviously the right, outcome, but she was begging the judge to give her an opportunity to shackle the prosecution. Now, at this stage, the court does not find that a restriction on Letitia's speech is necessary at this time. The court certainly has the power to control the speech of the defendants. Yeah, just like they did in Trump's cases. They gagged him out the wazoo. But so far, the government has not demonstrated that her speech has risen to the level that it must be dampened in spite of her First Amendment rights in order to preserve a just legal process. Well, how come they gagged Trump from talking about the judge's daughter? Recognizing that a criminal defendant is presumed innocent and all the things. Yeah. Therefore, to the extent the government asked the court to restrict Letitia's big mouth, that request will be denied so she can keep flapping her gums. Now, conclusion, the defendant's motion is granted in part, no log, but no gag on Tish. Now, again, she also has other ethical duties, right, as a lawyer to not undermine the sanctity of the courts. The government shall comply with the rules. You're reminded to follow the rules. Okay, we will. All counsel shall comply with the rules. Got it. The government shall preserve any records of communications having to do with the investigation. Okay. But Letitia's request that they keep a communication log is denied. And to the extent the government asked the court to limit her own speech, that request is also denied. I don't think they're really asking for that. They're just saying if she's running her mouth, then we can talk to the media too. She's talking to the media, we can do the same. So Tish, I would say, loses that one. She can keep speaking, but the procedural shackles that she wanted to impose, obviously those have been denied. So that's that. Letitia, meanwhile, is out there with Mamdani, and this is just as bad as pathetic as you can get. You can see even Zoran posted this in New York. Here's Tish.
Zoran! 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 Zoran!
Okay, that's New York's Attorney General. So they're out there. There's like 15 people out there. What are you doing, Tish? Nobody's even listening to her. All right, sounds like pathetic. But we also saw this woman, Lisa Cook, on the Federal Reserve, also allegedly a fraudster, according to many. Pulte said that she is now publicly discussing her getting possibly indicted. She's represented by Abby Lowell, who is the same lawyer who is Hunter Biden's former lawyer, the same guy who represented Goldbar Menendez, who's going to prison, and some others. Now representing Lisa Cook and John Bolton and Letitia James. Here's Lisa Cook Facebook out there talking about what's going on with her case.
Many of you know I am involved in an ongoing legal case.
Yeah, we know.
There are a number of people in this room and in this building who have reached out and been supportive in many ways. I am beyond grateful for this support. In multiple briefs filed by my very skilled legal team, questions related to this case and its potential impact on the Federal Reserve have been addressed at length. Because the case is ongoing, it would be inappropriate for me to comment further today. I can say that it is the honor of my life to serve on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. I will continue to carry out my sworn duties on behalf of the American people.
No. We don't need fraudsters who commit mortgage fraud to govern our fiscal and monetary policy. Okay, we're good on that. Thank you, though. So she's going to dig her heels in. Letitia is going to dig her heels in. John Bolton's going to dig his heels in. And we're going to keep our eye on all of these cases. Thank you, my friends, for subscribing and joining as we do. We've got new lawyers coming in on the Letitia case for the government, Henry Charles Whitaker, and there will be more on these mortgage fraudsters soon. We'll be here to cover it.